What is up, Pyromaniacs? Pyrostasis here. We are back in the world of Elder Scrolls Online, and we're going to be taking a look at Scottish Jesus. I do believe this is the final build that we're going to be more or less utilizing. Unfortunately, I already shot this video, but AverMedia decided it only wanted to record the audio. So we're going to try and recover this. I'm going to try not to miss anything. I do apologize that there's nothing more frustrating than recording something, doing it amazing, only to have one of the hardware pieces that you use decide, you know what, fuck it, we're just not going to work today. So, we are... Well, let's go ahead and fire him up real quick so I can show you. Scottish Jesus, we decided to go with Nord over Breton. The reason why is the racial abilities, at least in this. If you guys will remember, when we originally made Scottish Jesus on Skyrim, we went with Breton because we were going to be using two-hand, and we were going to be running into a lot of problems with magic users due to a lack of a shield. Well, we've decided, at least in this version, that's not going to really work all that well for us because there is no racial bonus to blow. I mean, yes, there is some innate magic resistances, but unlike Skyrim, you don't have like that 30 seconds of magic immunity. You just have a 20% increase to magic resistance. So it doesn't really make sense. This also, from what I understand, timeline-wise, is done in the past. So we're a couple hundred years before Skyrim, I believe. I may be wrong about that. I'm sure the lore bunnies will let me know. Either way, it is possible for Scotty to have changed a little bit in that time period. So, you know, he may be, this is Scotty's grandfather or grandson. One of them may have decided, you know what, we want to bang a hot Nord bitch. So either way, he's going to be Nord in this time. And the reason we went with that is he gets bonuses to two-handed weapons, which are a little bit more along the lines of what we want to do. So, you know, figured we're gonna rock and roll with that. We're also a Templar. You can see from his appearance right here, we went with the face paint to be a little bit like Braveheart, which is actually where Scottish Jesus' name comes from. Up here you can see we are the Ebonheart Pact. Reason we went with Ebonheart, and I know very little about the different packs, but Ebonheart was on the far right, Daggerfall Covenant was on the far left. I figured we would go with the far right because it would be about as far distance-wise as we could get from the other one. So, I figured it'd probably be completely different. We will eventually make a character and do the other one, the Alderi Dominion, I think it is, which sounds to me like elves. So maybe we'll do our mage there, depending on what you guys want to see. So anyways, let's look at his skills. Since we are Templar, we do have 3 different trees. This one is going to be melee oriented, this one is going to be magic oriented, and this one is going to be restoration or healing oriented. For this character, we are going to be using two-handed. Most of the two-handed abilities are based around area of effect damage or closing range. And then armor-wise, we are going to be going with heavy armor. Unfortunately, since we lost the original video, I can't show you what the armor looks like. In my opinion, Nord armor is kind of funky looking because it looks like a bunch of bones. But the nice thing about this is I do believe we can make other armors once we get our motifs set up. And so I'll be using other racial armors most likely. Now, if we come down here to the racial abilities, you can see what we get for our benefits. First off, we get 15% better EXP in two-handed weapons, which sounds good to me. It means we're going to level our two-handed abilities faster than any of the other ones. We get an increased health regeneration by 5%, which will eventually max out at 15. So basically, while in combat, I'm going to be restoring more health. We get a massive amount of frost resistance, increased cold resistance by 31, and increased maximum health by 1%. When this is fully done, that'll probably be somewhere around 90-ish extra cold resistance, and about a 3% increase in health. That's very, very small. It's almost not even worth mentioning. And then we get to increase our armor by 6, and that goes up, I believe, to 18. I'm not sure if that scales. I'm not sure if any of this scales and the numbers change. Possibly so. For my crafting abilities, I won't be taking any crafting abilities with this character. I am going to be using 100% my archer, which is over, you guys have seen. He's going to basically be my main crafter. I will be picking up the gathering abilities. So I most likely will get a keen eye for cloth, keen eye for ore, and keen eye for regents. I don't think there's any other keen eyes. Probably keen eye for wood as well. Might as well. So I'll get all the keen eye abilities just so I can find the stuff easier, but I probably won't invest in it, and then I'll just invest on all that stuff on my archer, most likely. Most likely. That may change. I may end up dividing them up depending. It just depends, honestly, on the skill layouts. So let's go ahead and talk about the different stuff. We are going to start off with the restoration. This most likely will be one of my main specs that I use because I'm probably, at least late game, I probably will be playing healing a lot more than I'll be playing the other ones, depending, because I enjoy healing people. So for like guilds and guild runs and quest runs and things like that, I probably will do healing. So let's cover these abilities real quick. Rush Ceremony basically heals nearby wounded ally for 49. This ability right here, I don't know if it's targeted. I can't recall. I know it can heal you. So I think it just finds the closest hurt one and heals that. I don't know if you can target with that. Healing Ritual is a 2-second cast time. It heals nearby allies for 38 and then heals you for an additional 30%. Restoring Aura. When slotted, increases stamina and health regeneration by 15. So just putting it on increases your stamina and health regeneration by 15%. That's a pretty big bonus. Plus, when activated, increases health and stamina regeneration of all nearby allies by an additional 80%. So total, that's a 95% health and stamina regeneration for 6 seconds. So that sounds on paper like it's really nice, but if your base regeneration is only 1, then when it blows, you're only going to get like 1.9. So I guess it kind of depends on what your innate abilities are. However, with our racial ability down here, Robust, we're going to basically have 15% automatically. So with that ability, that's going to kick us up to 30%. Again, assuming none of that scales. So that could be pretty badass. Cleansing Ritual instantly removes all negative effects from self. Over 12 seconds, heals nearby allies for 4. And every 2 seconds, allies in range may activate Purify, removing all negative effects. So basically you drop, I guess, a circle on the ground and people can interact with that circle if they're in trouble and need to cure the abilities. Coming down here to Rune Focus, creates an area of self-protection for 12 seconds, increasing armor and spell resistances by 75. So, that's not too bad. It's basically going to give you a massive boon that's going to keep you alive, reduce damage across the board, etc., etc. The ultimate heals allies nearby for 16 every half a second. So basically, it's going to last for 4 seconds. So that's basically 8 ticks of 16. You cannot move while channeling this ability. So you're basically going to be anchoring yourself and just massively healing everyone within a 12-meter radius, which is decently big, but it kind of depends. Some of the descriptions on some of these abilities are not very accurate. So while it says it's going to heal at 12 meters, and while in real life 12 meters is, you know, over 30 feet, that's pretty far. In ESO, I've seen some abilities that say 5 feet and it's literally more like 5 meters and it's more like 2 feet. So it just kind of depends on where that line is actually drawn. But that could be pretty huge. Then down here we've got Mending, increases critical strike on allies by up to 15%. We can get that twice, so that'd be 30%. Plus the crit strike chance increases more health an ally is missing. So basically the lower health they are, the harder you're going to be able to heal them. Let's see, focused healing while using restoration light ability increases healing power by 15% to allies standing in the area of protection. So basically several of these abilities create areas of protection. If you're standing in them, then you're going to get 15 or eventually when max 30% extra healing. Again, nice ability. Increases duration of restoration aura by 10%. Healing ritual grants allies under 60% health 1 ultimate and gain 39 armor and spell resistances. That's pretty badass as well. So basically, the more damage they're taking, or if they're being hurt, you're going to be able to help buffer that initial damage and then help heal them a decent amount. And then finally, Master Ritualist increases resurrection speed by 20%, and people res with more health and have a chance to get some soul gems when they come back up. I guess that makes you just basically a res bot. Kind of bummed that that's that far down in the tree, but I guess it's all right. Let's look at Dawn's Wrath. Now, this is going to be the caster version. If you look at all of these abilities, you're going to see all of these abilities have a 28-meter range. So that's actually pretty far, with the exception of this blinding light down here, and I'll go over that here in a second. So this basically is kind of like the holy fire caster that sits back and just drops bombs. So you've got Sunfire, deals 18 flame damage and an additional 12 flame damage over 4.5 seconds. The nice benefit about this is it's also doing 40% snare damage for 4.5 seconds. So you're going to be doing damage. They're also going to be getting, you know, a nice little damage over time. Plus they're going to be snared. So, you know, if in this role, obviously you're not going to be a healer primarily. So let's say your healer's getting trained, you know, it's got several melees on him. You use this ability to kind of help peel off of your healer. Snare that melee a little bit, gives your healer or your caster or your squishy DPS a little bit of time to move and get some distance. And especially since this class can technically wear heavy armor, you're kind of like a heavy armor wielding nuker, which is kind of different because most MMOs and other role-playing games don't have a class like that. Solar Flare deals 42 magic damage to target. Next attack gains 8 weapon power and 8 spell power against target and nearby enemies. Bonus does not apply to Solar Flare, Dark Flare, or Solar Barrage attacks. So basically, you set this ability up, and it makes your next ability even more strong. This is basically a debuff. So you throw this on, and then you follow it up with another ability that's going to do some decent damage, and it's basically a softener. So you use that ability, it softens them up a bit, and your next one, that's going to hit real hard. Backlash, target enemy stores up damage taken for 6 seconds. When effect ends, they receive an additional 33% of damage inflicted. Now, this is kind of a weird ability. The reason I say this is a weird ability is basically, if I read it right, you're stopping damage on a target for 6 seconds and storing that damage up. So let's just say for shits and giggles and keep it nice and easy, you do 1,000 damage in that 6 seconds, or you and your group does 1,000 damage. At the end of that, it drops, and now instead of just 1,000 damage, 1,330 damage is applied. That's a nice bonus, but again, it's still 6 seconds of leeway that you're giving. So you're almost, you know, if you're trying to attack a target, you'd have to be very careful how you use this, because you're basically telling the enemy healers, you know, all right, we're trying to kill this target. Oh, damage to stop, prepare for a big spike, so that it gives them 6 seconds to kind of load up with HOTS and damage shields and things like that. A nice tricky way to use this would be to change targets. So like, for instance, let's say you're trying to kill the enemy team's sorcerer. Then you switch over and attack their archer, blow that ability, they're not taking any damage, and then all of a sudden they just drop. So if you use it right, that could be effective. I don't know. That's kind of tricky, and it would require a lot of coordination. Eclipse. Target reflects negative spell single target. Let me rephrase that. Target reflects negative single target spells back at themselves for 4 seconds. I think this was Burnout in Guild Wars 2. Basically, anything you cast comes back at you. Great for shutting up a caster. Blinding Light. Nearby enemies have 50% chance to miss and be set off balance for 3.5 seconds. Now, this ability here, when you look at all of the rest of them, you know, 28 meters, 28 meters, 28 meters, 28 meters, 5 meters. You think about a caster's role. I'm at a distance. I don't want to be close. I don't want to be, you know, attacked by people. You know, I want to keep my distance as best as possible, which all of these abilities allow you to do, except for this one. And initially you're like, I don't understand. What's the point of this? Well, this is your oh shit ability. This is the I was kicking ass and taking names from a distance, and now all of a sudden that melee's decided he's going to come and train me. You know, 2 or 3 melees are on me. I'm getting rocked. You blow this ability, and nearby enemies have a 50% chance to miss and be set off balance by 3.5 seconds. I don't know what set off balance means, but basically anybody that's trying to kill you is going to have a 50% harder chance to do it. So some of those badass attacks they're using are going to miss. And it's give you time to either get some distance, heal yourself up, kill one of them, you know, whatever you need to do. It's going to give you a little bit of time to kind of prepare yourself. And then finally, you've got Nova. Enemies deal 30% less damage for 8 seconds and take 13 magic damage every 1 second. An ally may activate Supernova Synergy, dealing damage and stunning all enemies in the area. So basically, this ability is kind of the opposite of a defensive shield. Like usually healers and such have an ability that reduces damage by 30%. Well, this is kind of an offensive version of that. You're basically attacking the people out in front and saying, okay, these people in a specific area are going to do less damage. So the problem with this one is it's going to be kind of tricky, because you're going to have to target... You're going to have to, instead of just simply reducing damage that's coming at you, you have to actually find the person that's doing the damage and reduce that person's damage. So it's kind of interesting, and it depends on how it's used. I'd have to, it says target ground, so it's basically going to be a ground circle. So basically anybody standing in that circle, you know, it's going to just basically get the casters to jump out of that circle, and now they're doing damage again. But at the same time, you know, anytime you're making casters move, they're not casting spells, their damage is reduced. So I guess it's kind of a win-win. It's just a different way of looking at things. And then down here we've got increases ability duration by 10%. So basically all effects, dots, hots, things like that will be increased by 10 and then 20%. Prism bestows 1 additional ultimate upon activation. So basically any of these abilities will give you 1 extra ultimate point. While using Dawn's Wrath ability, spell resistance is increased by 15 if the attacker is affected. And then finally, reduces all magicka stamina and ultimate cost by 2%. I'm a little bummed by this, because it's so far down the line and it's only 4% when maxed out. 4%, you know, out of 100, that's 4. Out of 1,000, that's 40. It's a very small bonus for so far down in the tree. I don't know. I don't really like that. Okay, so up here we've got the melee abilities. Now this is about as far as you can get from restoring light. This is going to be, you know, using the two-handed, laying the smack down with your big ass sword. We may use some of this for PvE. Probably will mix and match at least initially to kind of try and get a feel for it. But it seems like at least you're probably going to have 3 different groupages. It's just basically going to come down to, do you like casting spells? Do you like doing melee damage when you want to be a DPS? And then do you want to be a healer? So for me, I'm definitely going to want to be a healer. And then it'll just depend on which one of these I like more. And then we'll kind of just stick with that. So most likely I will be a combination of Aedric Spear and Restoring Light. So with the first ability in Aedric Spear, Puncturing Strikes, for 4 consecutive attacks for 3 magic damage to enemies in front of you. Closest target takes 100% additional damage and is knocked back on the last hit. So basically, you're going to just kind of channel an ability, do a bunch of attacks, and then you're going to kick the guy back. Piercing Javelin hurls a spear, causing 18 magic damage and knocking back target 5 meters. That's 15 feet in real life, and this one probably not going to knock you back that far. Charge the target, erupting cast, and stuns the target for 3 seconds. So the nice thing about this is you open up with this, that knocks them back a bit. You throw this, that knocks them back even further. Then you charge them, that stuns, and then you can rinse and repeat. Spear Shards deal 17 magic damage to enemies within target area, disorients 1 target for 6 seconds. Allies may pick up spear, granting 25% stamina and an additional 20 stamina over 10 seconds. So basically, you throw this on the ground, it's a circle, it kind of messes with some folks, disorients them, and then you can pick up the spear for an additional stamina gain. These abilities cost magicka though, so stamina is not going to do you much good, but if you've got some other melees that are stamina based, I know for like my archer, all of my archer abilities were stamina based. This could be a nice benefit for them to pick up that spear. Sun Shield grants damage shield for 25 or 27% max health that lasts 6 seconds. Deals 9 magic damage to nearby enemies radius on activation. Each successful hit increases shield strength by 4%. You will not regenerate magicka with the shield is active. So basically, you blow this and 27% max health. So if you've got 1,000 hit points, that's 270 extra hit points. And then let's say you hit, I don't know, 3 people with that. That's an additional 12%. You're racking up now, what, 27, 37, 38, 39, almost 40% extra hit points with that. That's basically the ability you want to blow when everybody focuses on you. Radial Sweep deals 32 magic damage to all nearby enemies. Obviously, that is going to have to scale. Otherwise, it's just kind of silly. Kind of interesting. I don't know how that would work. It seems to be awfully low damage. I'm assuming later on that will get bigger and do more, hopefully. We've got Piercing Spear. Increases critical strike chance by 5%. Increases damage versus blocking targets by 5%. Eventually, that'll be 10% for both. That's huge. So if you're training a melee and he's blocking your abilities, you're gonna be breaking through that a little bit. That's kind of nice. Spear Wall increases block amount versus melee attacks by 7%. That's kind of interesting, considering, you know, obviously we don't have a shield. So that's going to be an eventual 14%. That's not too bad. Not too bad. 25% chance on hit to deal 7 magic damage. So basically, every time you hit, you got a chance to have 7 magic damage or eventually 14 as a damage add. I assume that will scale and will increase. Increases weapon damage by 2% and spell resistances by 6%. Again, that's going to be 4 and 12. Seems awfully low, like all the other bonuses for far down in the tree. I'm just assuming that those are gonna perk up a bit. Now, racial abilities, I want to cover these real quick. Obviously, the reason we picked this is for the two-handed weapon expertise. Honestly, In the end game, that's not going to matter because 15% faster, that just means in the long run, you're going to be a little bit higher, faster than other people will. But at the same time, it only works until you cap out the skills. Once the skill is capped out, it's no longer a benefit. You know, it's kind of marginal. Increases health regeneration in combat by 5%, eventually up to 15. That one's pretty nice. Cold resist by 31 and a maximum health by 1%. So that's a 3% and 93 eventually. That seems to be pretty significant. And then increases armor by 6 and eventually 18. Again, that's possibly could be pretty significant. With this character, we are going to be using heavy armor, so we're going to have all of these bonuses here. The active ability increases armor and spell resistances by 51 for 8 seconds, grants immunity to knockback, and disables effects for the duration. That's pretty badass, especially since that's probably going to not only increase with multiple arcs, but over time that will kick up. So that's going to make you basically a massive tank. And then you've got all these abilities which basically just make you harder to kill. Should be pretty good. I'm kind of digging the heavy armor setup. We're also going to be using two-handed. Now, the nice thing about some of these two-handed abilities is this synergizes fairly well with some of the Aedric spears. If you could fit some of these abilities and some of the Aedric spear abilities, you could have a real good time. So two-handed, basically you start off with cleave. It just hits everything in front of you. Critical charge. Now this is the nice one. Player charges a target and attacks, dealing 19 physical damage. Always deals critical damage. So basically this is going to be your big badass crit. What you could do is you could blow this to do a crit. Actually, you know what? Let's do it this way. Aedric Spear, you use Focus Charge. That's going to stun them. So when you hit them, you stun them. Then you do this, Puncturing Strikes, which is going to do some damage and knocks them back. You use a Javelin, which is going to hurl a spear and knock them back. And then you do this final charge right here, Critical Charge, which is then going to do the final blow with a massive crit strike. So, you know, that gives you the ability to stun, knockback, charge, crit. Some pretty interesting synergy there. Uppercut deals 35 damage and stuns a target for 3.5 seconds. You know, you could follow up that crit charge with this. Unfortunately, I think at that point you've pretty much got all 5 of your abilities. So, it's going to be hard to fit all of this stuff unless you can change abilities with a weapon swap. Now, I know with the weapon swap stuff over here, wrong ability. Here we go. I know with weapon swap, toggles between your primary and backup weapon sets, and I believe it also gives you a whole different spell bar. If that's true, then you could swap back and forth between weapons. It just depends on what the cooldown is on the weapon swap. If there's like a 1 second cooldown or a 3 second cooldown, or even worse, you can't do it in combat, then it's going to make those types of things very difficult. Reverse Slash deals 13 physical damage with damage increasing based on target health loss to a maximum of 300%. So basically, the lower health they are, the harder you're going to hit, and the more damage you're going to do. Momentum increases weapon damage by 10% for 20 seconds and an additional 2% every 2 seconds. That's pretty ridiculous. By 10% for 20 seconds. Okay, gotcha. So basically, eventually there, you're going to be doing 30% extra damage towards the end of it. That's insane. And then you've got all the bonuses. This one gives you more splash damage. This one right here basically makes your weapons, depending on which one you're using, do a little bit more effects. So basically bleeds, crit strike, or armor pen. So pretty good stuff. Reduces cost of 200 feats by 10%. Increases the chance of applying status effects like burning, chilling, etc. by 50%. And then finally, Battle Rush. Killing an enemy increases stamina regeneration by 25% for 6 seconds. That one's going to be huge, especially with Aedric Spear, because if you can get in there and just start burning through people, the more kills you get, the more regeneration you're going to have. So basically you drop one target and now your stamina starts coming back, giving you the continuation or the momentum to steal this one's ability name, to continue on and do more and more stuff. So that is currently what I'm planning on doing with Scottish Jesus, at least initially. We're going to be doing two-handed. We're going to be probably doing Restoration Light and Aedric Spear. with the 200 damage and the heavy armor. So that's my current goals. For crafting, I won't be doing any crafting on this character. I believe I can move all of the stuff that I need back and forth between my bank slots. So I'm just going to let my archer do all the crafting. I'm going to test to make sure that I can make a weapon over there and give it to this guy, since they're technically on opposite packs, which means they're on different teams. So it's kind of interesting that my archer on another race is being the arms dealer for one of his enemies on the other side. But oh well, who cares? This is the general idea that we're going to be going with for Scottish Jesus. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited about this series? What we'll probably do is do one episode of Scotty and then one episode of the Archer a day, and that way you guys kind of get both flavors depending on what you're looking for. So if you guys have any input that you guys would like me to do, anything you would like me to change with this setup, if you don't like the race I picked or whatever, let me know now. I won't be playing this character probably for 24 hours, so I'll give you guys plenty of chances to throw your input in, and we can make changes up until we walk outside that door. So anyways, if you're looking forward to this series, please slap that like button, make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next clip.